At 2:13 in the morning, Clara Bennett pulled the iron gate down between 10 men in black suits and the little boy hiding behind her legs. The last bus had already gone. The depot lights hummed above emptied benches, wet tire marks, and a row of lost umbrellas drying in a plastic bin. The boy stood inside the lost and found office wearing Clara's oversized yellow safety vest over his cashmere coat, both hands wrapped around a chipped red toy bus. Outside the gate, 3 black SUVs idled under the fluorescent canopy. The men did not shout. That made them worse. Then the tallest one stepped forward. 38. Black suit. Pale gray eyes. A face handsome enough to belong on a billboard and cold enough to empty the street. Dante Moretti did not look at the gate as if it could stop him. He looked at it as if it had made a foolish choice. "Open it," he said. Clara kept one hand on the latch. Behind her, Luca Moretti made a sound too small for a child. Dante's eyes cut to his son. "Luca." The boy flinched. That was all Clara needed. "Do not order him," she said. Every man outside the gate went still. Dante's gaze returned to her with enough force to make most people step back. Clara did not. She was 26 years old, soaked to the ankles from mopping Bus Bay 3, wearing a city transit sweatshirt with a broken zipper, and earning less in one night than the watch on his wrist was worth. But the boy behind her was shaking. "He already knows you are powerful," Clara said. "He needs to know you are safe." Dante Moretti's jaw tightened. "He is my son. Then you know what song calms him down." The words changed the air. One of the men outside looked away. Dante went very still. Luca's fingers tightened around the red toy bus until his knuckles showed pale under the depot lights. Clara lowered her voice. "If you want him to come to you, don't order him. Sing." No one breathed. For 3 years, Dante Moretti had not sung. Everyone in his world knew that. Men whispered it like a locked room. Since his wife died, no one had heard him sing the lullaby she used to hum to their son. Not at birthdays. Not at funerals. Not when the boy woke screaming. Dante paid doctors, bought schools, hired drivers, closed streets, moved enemies. He did not sing. Now a bus depot girl stood between him and his child, asking for the one thing his empire could not force from him. Dante's hand curled once at his side. Then his voice came through the iron gate, low, rough, and almost broken by disuse. Italian, Clara thought. A lullaby, though she did not know the words. Luca stopped shaking on the first line. By the third, he stepped out from behind Clara's yellow vest. By the fifth, Dante's men had all turned their faces away. And when the song ended, the boy walked to the gate, pressed his small palm through the bars, and whispered, "Papa." Only then did Clara open it. 30 minutes earlier, Clara had been trying to reunite a single red mitten with its owner. The city's East Depot was not romantic at closing. It smelled of diesel, old coffee, wet rubber, and a lemon cleaner that never quite defeated anything. After midnight, the place became a country of tired people, drivers with aching shoulders, cleaners pushing gray water across concrete, security guards pretending not to sleep, and Clara in the lost and found office sorting other people's forgotten lives. A cracked phone with no charge. 3 umbrellas. A child's glitter backpack. 1 wedding band in a paper envelope marked Route 18, Seat 12. A grocery bag containing nothing but oranges and a paperback romance with a corner folded at a very interesting page. Clara cataloged each item in the ledger because lost things deserved to be taken seriously. She knew what it felt like to be misplaced. After her aunt died, there had been no one left to ask whether Clara made it home after late shifts. No mother waiting with soup, no father calling to scold her for taking the long route, no brother on a couch. Just a third-floor room above a pawn shop, a kettle that screamed like it resented boiling, and a job that paid exactly enough to keep needing it. At 1:44, she found the boy on the last bus. Route 27 had come in from the North Loop, washed in fog and late-night exhaust. Driver Hayes handed over the keys, muttering about a sleeping drunk in the back. Clara climbed aboard with a trash bag and a practiced sigh. The back row was empty. Then the red toy bus rolled out from beneath the seat and touched her shoe. Clara crouched. 2 enormous dark eyes stared at her from the space between the seat backs. The boy could not have been more than 6. He wore a charcoal cashmere coat, expensive sneakers with wet laces, and the frozen silence of a child who had learned not to make noise unless noise was useful. "Hi," Clara said, soft enough not to bounce off the bus windows. "I am Clara. I work here." The boy said nothing. "Is that your bus?" She nodded toward the red toy. His hand shot out and pulled it back against his chest. "Good," Clara said. "A bus should know its driver." That made his eyes flicker. She stayed crouched. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head. "Lost." His mouth trembled. He forced it still. "No." Then the bus got lost. After a moment, he nodded. Clara's heart pinched. She did not reach for him. Children who hid under seats had reasons. "It happens," she said. "Route 27 gets confused after midnight. Too many turns. Would you like to come to the office? It has heat, a vending machine that steals coins, and 3 chairs nobody wants." "No badges," he whispered. Clara understood enough. "No badges. Papa says no badges." "Then your papa sounds like a man with strong opinions." The boy hugged the toy bus harder. "Papa gets angry. Most grown men do. It is their least original hobby." This time the boy almost smiled. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "You can give me the bus's name first," Clara said. "Luca." "Is that the bus?" "Me." "All right, Luca. You and your bus can come inside. I will not touch you. You can walk behind me or in front of me. Your choice." The choice mattered. Clara had learned that long before the transit authority printed it in a training packet. A frightened person needed one small thing that still belonged to them. Luca chose behind her. In a lost-and-found office, Clara turned the space heater toward him and took a yellow safety vest from the hook by the door. It had reflective strips, a coffee stain near the pocket, and her name written inside the collar in black marker. She held it out. "For official depot guests." Luca stared. "It is too big. That is how people know you are important." He let her drape it over his shoulders. The vest swallowed him. Under the harsh office light, he looked less like a rich man's son and more like a child who had been cold too long. "Why yellow?" he asked. "So the buses can see you." He looked down at the bright fabric as if it had offered him a treaty. Clara fed coins into the vending machine and won a lukewarm chocolate milk after 2 failed negotiations. Luca drank it with both hands around the carton. He did not tell her much. He had been in a bad car. Not bad as in broken. Bad as in too quiet. His driver had taken a route he did not know. Luca had seen a blue card with a fish on it, thought it meant the bus to the aquarium, and slipped away when the car stopped near the North Loop. Clara did not like any of that. Children did not simply slip out of guarded cars because of fish. "Do you know a phone number?" she asked. Luca turned the red bus over and showed her the underside. A number had been written there in tiny black letters. Beside it was one word, Matteo. Clara used the office landline. The man who answered did not say hello. "Where is he?" The voice was male, Italian accented, and controlled with such effort Clara heard the panic underneath. "He is safe," she said. "This is Clara Bennett at the East Bus Depot. I have a little boy named Luca. He gave me this number." Silence. Then movement, voices, a door slammed somewhere far away. "Is he hurt?" "No. Cold. Scared. Drinking chocolate milk like it insulted his family." A sharp breath, almost a laugh, cut short. "Put him on." "No." The silence changed. "Excuse me." He is sitting with both hands on the carton, and his face went white when he heard your voice. "You can speak after I tell him who is on the line. Do you know who I am?" "No. I know there is a child in my office who does not need another adult grabbing the steering wheel." Another silence. Then the man said, "Lower, tell him Matteo is coming. Tell him his father is coming. Tell him no one is angry." Clara covered the receiver. "Luca, Matteo is coming. Your father is coming. Nobody is angry." Luca's eyes filled instantly. Not relief. Fear. Clara watched it land in him and made a decision. She returned to the phone. "There's an iron gate at the depot entrance. I will meet you there. You will bring him outside." "No, Miss Bennett. Outside has black cars and men who move too fast. He stays in here until I know he wants to leave. He is my family. Then come like family." She hung up before her courage could leave. The black SUVs arrived 9 minutes later. Clara saw them through the office window, sliding into the bus lane without headlights, one after another. Men stepped out in dark coats and suits, scanning the depot as if the empty benches were hiding enemies. One of them came to the gate first, silver at his temples, broad shoulders, a scar across one eyebrow. "Miss Bennett," he called. "I am Matteo Rinaldi." So the number had not been random. Luca stood beside Clara, yellow vest hanging to his knees, red bus against his chest. "Do you know him?" Clara asked. Luca nodded. "Uncle Matteo. Do you want to go to him?" Luca looked to the gate. Matteo's face softened when he saw the boy, but his body stayed hard, ready, dangerous. "I want Papa." "Then we wait for Papa." Matteo heard enough. "Mr. Moretti is 2 minutes away." "Good. You can open the gate." "No." His eyebrows lifted. "No. I said we wait." Matteo looked at the iron bars, then at Clara. A small, strange smile moved across his face. "You are either very brave or very tired. Mostly underpaid." Something like respect entered his eyes. Then Dante Moretti arrived. His SUV stopped at the curb without jerking. He stepped out before anyone opened the door for him. No tie, black suit, white shirt, dark hair, perfectly controlled despite the hour. He moved like every inch of the depot belonged to him already and was merely waiting for the paperwork. Clara felt the pressure of him before he spoke. Luca stepped behind her. That was when Clara pulled the gate all the way down and locked it. Dante's eyes tracked the motion. The men around him shifted. "Open it," he said. The rest happened as if the depot itself held its breath. Clara told him not to order the boy, told him to sing. At first, she thought he might tear the gate from its hinges. Instead, Dante Moretti sang. The song was not smooth. It came out low, stripped, and unwilling, but it was a song. Luca's whole body changed. He stopped being a rich man's missing son and became a little boy who knew his mother had once existed in the sound of his father's voice. When Clara opened the gate, Luca went to Dante. The man dropped to one knee only long enough to gather his child into his arms. Not submission, not weakness. A father making himself the height his son could reach. Clara looked away. Some moments are not for strangers. When Dante stood again, Luca tucked against his side. The Mafia Boss's face had closed back into command. But the closure was imperfect now. Clara had seen the room behind it. "Miss Bennett," he said. "Mr. Moretti, you protected my son. He was cold. You refused to release him to my men. He was scared of your men." Matteo made a sound that might have been a cough. Dante did not look away from Clara. "Do you always make powerful men wait outside gates?" "Only when they arrive like storms." Luca's cheek rested against Dante's shirt. His eyes were half closed, but one small hand still reached toward the yellow vest. Clara unfastened it and held it out. Luca shook his head. "Can I keep it?" "It is city property." His face fell. Clara sighed, "Which means it has been ignored by management for 12 years. Keep it tonight." Dante's gaze moved to the vest. "I will pay for it." "No." His eyes returned to her. "No. You can return it when he does not need it. Everyone needs something. Then maybe you should borrow one too." The men behind him went utterly silent. For 1 second, Dante looked as if he had forgotten how to respond to a person who did not fear the obvious conclusion. Then Luca whispered, "Papa, she told the bus to see me." Dante's face changed again. Softer, so fast it could be mistaken for shadow. "Then we owe the bus our thanks." Luca nodded solemnly. Dante looked at Clara. "I do not forget debts. Children are not debts." "No," he said, "they are not." That was the first thing he said that made her believe he might understand the difference. He reached inside his jacket. Clara stiffened despite herself. He noticed. Of course he noticed. His hand slowed deliberately and emerged with a black card between 2 fingers. "If you need anything, I need the Route 12 driver to stop leaving sunflower seeds in bus 3. Matteo looked down. Dante held the card out anyway. Clara did not take it. "Good night, Mr. Moretti." His eyes sharpened. "You are refusing me? I'm going back to work. It is 2:30 in the morning. Lost things do not sort themselves." Luca looked from his father to Clara. "Will I see you again?" That question was much harder than the card. Clara crouched to his height. "If you bring the vest back, probably. I will. And the bus." He lifted the red toy. "He wants to see you too. Tell him I expect punctuality. Luca smiled then, small and real. Dante watched that smile like a starving man watched bread through glass. Then he took his son home. Clara should have forgotten him. Not Luca. Children in yellow safety vests did not leave the heart quickly. But Dante Moretti should have been filed away under strange night. Dangerous father, never repeat. By sunrise, she had mopped bus bay 3, logged a gold earring shaped like a leaf, and fallen asleep on the early train with her forehead against the window. By noon, she woke in her room above the pawn shop with 6 missed calls from an unknown number. By 1, her landlord knocked to ask whether she knew why 2 men in tailored suits were standing across the street looking at the front door as if it had offended them. By 3, Matteo Rinaldi appeared at the depot office holding a paper bag and Clara's yellow safety vest. "Mr. Moretti returns city property," he said. Clara looked at the bag. "And Luca insisted you cannot sort lost things on vending machine food." Inside were a turkey sandwich, a thermos of soup, 2 apples, and a small envelope. Clara opened the envelope first. A check slid halfway out, many zeros visible. She pushed it back in and handed it to Matteo. "No." He seemed unsurprised. "He said you would do that." "Then why bring it?" "Because he likes to be right twice." "Tell him he gets once." Matteo's mouth twitched. "May I at least leave the sandwich?" Clara's stomach betrayed her with a small sound. "The sandwich can stay." Matteo placed the vest on the counter. Luca had drawn a tiny red bus on the inside collar beside Clara's name. She stared at it too long. "He slept with it," Matteo said quietly. "First full night in 3 months." Clara looked up. There was no manipulation in his face now. Only information he knew would matter. "Why are you telling me?" "Because Mr. Moretti does not know how to ask for help unless he can disguise it as logistics. And you do. I am older. I know it is hopeless either way." Clara folded the vest carefully. "What does he want?" "Luca has refused the car today. Refused his tutor. Refused breakfast unless it was served on a bus schedule. He wants to see the woman who told his father to sing. That is not a service the transit authority provides. Mr. Moretti can arrange payment for your time." "No." "A better position?" "No." "A donation to the depot?" Clara narrowed her eyes. Matteo nodded. "That was the one he said might work." "Your boss is annoying." "Deeply. I'm not a nanny." "No one said you were." "I am not moving into some marble cage because a rich child had one good night." "No one said that either." He did in his head. Matteo gave her a look of quiet admiration. "Probably." Clara sighed and looked at the red bus drawn inside the vest. 1 hour, she said. "Here. Public place. No men crowding him. No black cars in the bus lane. Mr. Moretti will not like that. Then he can bring a song." Dante came at 6. Not with 10 men this time. 2 waited outside the depot entrance, far enough back that Clara almost approved. Matteo stood near the vending machines, pretending not to supervise. Dante walked in holding Luca's hand. The boy wore ordinary jeans today, a navy sweater, and a yellow vest over both as if it were royal armor. He also carried the red toy bus. "Miss Clara," he called, then stopped himself and looked at his father. Dante looked down. "You may run if she agrees." Luca looked at Clara. Clara opened her arms. He ran. The impact nearly knocked the air from her, but she held on. Children were heavier when they trusted you. Dante watched from 6 feet away, face unreadable. "Better," Clara said. "I live for your approval." "That sounds unlikely." "It is new." Luca tugged Clara toward the route map. "Show Papa the one that goes by the water." The map took up half the depot wall, a spiderweb of colored lines and tiny numbers. Clara had spent 3 years explaining it to furious commuters, lost tourists, and elderly women who refused to admit they needed glasses. She explained it now to Luca like it was a treasure chart. Red line goes to the museum. Green line goes past the park. Blue line goes near the aquarium, but not from here. See? It turns south 2 stops before the depot. Luca frowned. "But the blue fish card said here." Dante's attention sharpened. "What blue fish card?" Luca reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded card. Clara had expected a child's drawing. It was not. It was printed on glossy paper with a cartoon fish and a simplified blue route that showed a stop at the East Depot. Under it, in neat lettering, Aquarium Night Route. Clara took it carefully. This route does not exist. Dante's voice changed. Luca. The boy's shoulders rose. Clara put a hand lightly on Dante's sleeve before thinking. Every man in the depot seemed to notice. Dante looked down at her hand. Clara removed it, slower than she wanted. Do not make the card sound like his mistake, she said. Dante held her gaze. Then he turned back to his son. Where did you get this? Not soft, but not sharp. Luca looked at the toy bus. From Mr. Silas. He said Mama liked fish. The silence that followed was not the depot's usual tired silence. It was the silence of men choosing how much danger to show in front of child. Dante's face became perfectly calm. Clara understood immediately that calm was the place in him where worse things lived. Who is Silas? She asked. Matteo answered from behind them. A family associate. I do not like those words together. Neither do I at the moment, Matteo said. Dante held out his hand for the card. Clara did not give it to him. His eyes moved to hers. Clara. It was the first time he used her name without miss in front of it. She hated that she noticed. This came from a lost child in my depot, she said. It goes in my log. It is evidence. Then you could take a photo. Matteo covered his mouth with his hand. Dante stepped closer. He was very good at making one step feel like a weather change. You are standing between me and something that endangered my son. I know. Most people would move. Most people do not run lost and found. We are possessive about paperwork. For 1 second, something almost warm passed through his eyes. I could have this depot closed. Then you would have to explain to Luca why you broke the place where the buses see him. That struck exactly where she meant it to. Dante looked at his son. Luca had put the toy bus on the map ledge and was tracing the false blue line with one finger, confused and ashamed. Dante's anger changed direction. Photograph it, he told Matteo. Matteo did. Clara logged the card under found printed material, suspicious route notice, no owner. Dante watched her write. You have neat handwriting, he said. That is because drivers lose things in dramatic ways, and someone has to bring order to the ruins. Is that what you do? Among other glamorous duties. Luca looked up. Can Miss Clara come to Nana's house? Dante's expression closed halfway. Luca. Nana won't walk. She says legs are for people with places to go. Luca leaned against Clara's side. Miss Clara knows all the places. Clara saw the offer forming in Dante's mind before he spoke it. Money, job, car, controlled environment, solution packaged like generosity. No, she said. His eyebrows lifted. I did not ask yet. You were about to. You do not know what I was going to ask. You were going to offer me a position with a polite name, too much money, and just enough rules that I would not notice the walls until the door closed. Matteo suddenly found the ticket machine fascinating. Dante studied her, not offended exactly. More like interested despite himself. You think poorly of me. I think efficiently of rich men. I am not only rich. No, that is the worrying part. Luca looked between them. Are you fighting? Clara smiled down at him. No, we are reading the schedule. Papa hates schedules. That explains a lot. Dante's mouth moved. Almost. Clara lasted 2 days before going to the Moretti house. Not because Dante wore her down. He tried, of course. A driver appeared with a sealed envelope that Clara returned unopened. A city supervisor suddenly treated her like a citizen of importance and asked if she needed flexibility. The depot coffee machine was replaced overnight by one that made espresso, which nearly caused a driver uprising until Clara taped a handwritten sign to it. Use at your own risk. Possibly Mafia. No. Clara went because Luca called the office landline at 8:12 p.m. and said, very carefully, Nana says the house has no stops left. That was not a child's sentence. So Clara went. The Moretti house sat behind iron gates and winter trees, pale stone against a dark sky. It was beautiful in the way old money and older secrets were beautiful, composed, expensive, and not asking permission to intimidate. Dante met her at the door. You came. Luca called. I know. Did you tell him to? No. She believed him. Not because he looked innocent. He did not. Dante Moretti looked like innocence had once applied for a meeting and been denied. but he looked tired. Inside, the house was quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet like everyone had learned to step around grief. Luca waited at the bottom of the stairs, yellow vest on over pajamas. He ran, then remembered to look at his father. Dante said, "You may." Luca crashed into Clara's legs. "Nana is mad," he whispered. "At what?" "Mourning. Common enemy." Rosa Moretti sat in a bedroom overlooking the garden. Silver hair braided over one shoulder, shawl wrapped around thin bones, dark eyes sharp enough to cut silk. A cane leaned and used against the bed. A tray of untouched soup sat on the table. "So this is the bus girl," Rosa said. Clara stepped inside, only on official documents. Rosa's eyes flicked over her coat, her worn boots, the transit badge clipped to her pocket. "My son brings home strays now. Actually, your grandson found me. Same disease." Dante made a warning sound. "Mama." Rosa ignored him. "I do not need a keeper." "Good," Clara said. "I'm terrible at keeping people." The old woman narrowed her eyes. Clara took the route map from her bag and unfolded it on the bed. Dante frowned. "What is that?" "Your mother's new argument partner." Rosa leaned despite herself. "That map is old. So are half the drivers. We make allowances." Luca climbed onto the footstool. "Miss Clara says every place has a stop." "Does she?" Rosa said. "Even bathrooms." "Especially bathrooms," Clara said. "Important transfer point." Rosa's mouth betrayed her with a tiny twitch. Clara placed a button from her coat on the map. "This is your bed. My bed is not on a bus route. It is tonight. This is Kitchen Street." She placed a coin near the doorway. "This is Window Avenue. Your cane is the bus. It refuses to leave the depot unless the driver stands." Dante looked at Clara as if she had started speaking a language he should have learned years ago. Rosa scoffed. "Ridiculous." "Completely. I'm not a child." "No. Children are easier to trick." This time Rosa smiled outright, brief and unwilling. 10 minutes later, with Luca calling stops in a conductor's voice, Rosa stood. One step, then two, from bed to chair, from chair to window. Dante did not move the entire time. He stood by the wall, hands at his sides, watching his mother cross a room he owned but could not fix. When Rosa finally sat near the window, breathing hard and furious at the tears in her eyes, Luca clapped. "You made it to Window Avenue." "I hate Window Avenue," Rosa said. "Tomorrow we go to Kitchen Street," Clara said. "Tomorrow, if the route is running." Rosa looked at Dante. "Hire her." Clara folded the map. "No." Dante's eyes met hers. Rosa said, "I was not asking you." That is why the answer was no. The old woman stared. Then she laughed. Dante looked as if laughter in that room was something rare enough to be dangerous. In the hall afterward, he walked beside Clara without touching her. "You refuse out of habit. You offer out of habit." "My mother walked." "Your mother argued." Walking was collateral damage. Luca slept last night with the vest beside him. Clara's hand tightened on the folded map. Dante noticed. "You care. That is not an employment contract. I'm not asking for one. You are thinking about one. I'm thinking about many things." There was weight in the words. Too much for a hallway with family photographs watching. Clara looked at the nearest frame. A woman with dark hair smiled from beside Dante, her hand on a younger Luca's head. The wife, the mother, the song. "She was beautiful," Clara said. Dante followed her gaze. "Yes." "Did she sing badly?" That surprised him. "Terribly," he said after a moment. "She claimed accuracy was less important than commitment." "Smart woman." "Very." The silence warmed, then hurt. Clara adjusted her bag. "I can come 3 evenings a week for 1 month. For Luca and Rosa. Here are the rules." Dante's attention sharpened. "I do not live here. I do not wear clothes you buy. I do not ride with a driver unless I choose to. No one follows me home. Luca does not lie to me to protect your feelings. And if your world puts him in danger again, I get to say so without a room full of men reaching into their jackets. My men do not reach. Your men breathe like they might." He almost smiled. "Payment?" he asked. "Transit rate plus hazard pay." "Name it." "No." "City scale. Double for private hours." That is absurdly low. That is the point. You are making it difficult for me to feel generous. You will survive. Dante looked at her for a long time. 3 evenings, he said. 1 month. No followers. No wardrobe. No lies to Luca. And my men will breathe less dramatically. Good. As Clara reached the stairs, Dante said, Miss Bennett. She turned. Thank you. The words were not as hard for him as the song, but they were not easy either. Clara softened despite every sensible instinct. You are welcome. Downstairs, Luca had fallen asleep on the couch with the yellow vest under his cheek. Dante saw it too. For once, neither of them said anything. The month changed the house. Not loudly. The Moretti house did not allow loud change. It happened in small, stubborn ways. Rosa walked from Bedstop to Window Avenue, then to Kitchen Street, then to Garden Terminal, complaining every inch of the route and demanding better signage. Clara made cardboard station names with Luca, who took his duties as conductor seriously and fined his grandmother 1 cookie for aggressive delay. Dante pretended not to watch from doorways. He watched constantly. Luca began riding short loops on city buses with Clara and Matteo. At first, he sat stiffly with the red toy bus pressed to his stomach. Then he started naming stops. Then he asked why the bus sighed when it stopped. Clara told him everyone sighed when they had to work late. Papa does not sigh, Lucas said. Your papa sighs internally. Very expensive habit. Matteo, 3 seats behind them, coughed into his fist. Dante did not come on the first rides, or the second. On the third, he appeared at the depot in a black coat, looking at the city bus as if it were a hostile animal. Lucas saw him and froze. Clara saw the old pattern rising in Dante. Command, control, close distance. Ask, she said quietly. Dante's jaw tightened. Then he looked at Luca. May I sit with you? The boy stared as if his father had performed a card trick. By the window, Lucas said. Dante sat by the window. He was too tall for the seat. His knees did not fit. His suit looked personally offended by public transit. But he sat, one hand on the red toy bus, when Luca placed it between them. At the second stop, the bus hissed. Dante looked at Clara. It does sound tired. Luca laughed. It was not a big laugh. But in Dante's face, Clara saw a man receiving water after a long drought. The trouble came with Silas Vale. Clara met him first at the house, where he arrived without knocking in a gray overcoat and a smile polished thin. He had light hair, pale hands, and the habit of looking at people as if deciding which shelf they belonged on. This must be the transit girl, he said. Clara held a bowl of soup Rosa had finally agreed to eat after declaring it acceptable only because Clara called it express broth. Lost and found, Clara said. Transit girl makes me sound like a collectible. Silas smiled wider. Dante, she is charming. Dante did not smile. She is standing here. Of course. Silas inclined his head to Clara. My apologies. Luca appeared in the doorway and stopped. His hand went to the red bus in his pocket. Clara saw it. So did Dante. Silas lifted a hand in greeting. Luca, good to see you safe after your adventure. The boy did not answer. Dante's voice cooled. Silas, I meant no harm. Then speak less. Silas's eyes flicked briefly to Clara. Not anger. Measurement. Clara set the soup tray down and held out her hand to Luca. We need to check whether Garden Terminal is open. Luca came to her at once. Dante watched that too. Later, Clara found a blue fish sticker under the library table. It might have meant nothing. It did not feel like nothing. She slipped it into the pocket of her coat. The public ceremony was Dante's idea, which meant it arrived looking like city improvement and moved underneath like strategy. The East Bus Depot had been scheduled for closure for years. Leaking roof, broken benches, old route boards, a heating system that survived through spite. Dante Moretti's foundation announced funding to restore it. New lights, safer waiting rooms, better late-night security, a protected family area for lost children and vulnerable passengers. You bought my workplace, Clara said when he told her. I funded repairs. That is rich man language for bought the right to be thanked. The roof leaks. The roof, and I have an understanding. It drips into electrical wiring. A tense understanding. Clara. She looked at him. He rarely used her first name now unless he wanted the truth to stand still. Silas wants the depot closed, Dante said. He has wanted the property for development for 2 years. The restoration keeps it public. That changed the shape of the room. And you did not lead with that because you dislike being managed. I dislike realizing management after the fact even more. I am learning. She believed him. That was becoming a problem. The ceremony took place on a cold, bright afternoon under a temporary canopy beside Bay 1. City officials came. Donors came. Cameras came. Drivers came for the free coffee and stayed to see whether Clara would yell at a billionaire. She wore her own dark green coat, her transit badge, and the boots she trusted on wet concrete. Dante wore a black suit and the expression of a man tolerating public gratitude because it served a private purpose. Luca stood beside him in a navy coat, yellow vest peeking from underneath like contraband hope. Rosa sat in the front row with her cane across her lap, looking strong enough to insult anyone who offered help too early. Silas Vale arrived smiling. He shook hands, praised community, praised safety, praised Dante's generosity as if the word generosity belonged in his mouth. Then his gaze landed on Clara. "And here is the famous bus girl," he said, loud enough for nearby cameras. "Proof that every king needs a sentimental hobby." The depot went quiet in pockets. Dante turned his head. That was all. One small movement. Men had probably disappeared for less. Clara stepped forward before Dante could speak. "Lost and found," she said. "If you're going to insult me, use the correct department." A driver barked a laugh and tried to turn it into a cough. Silas's smile stayed fixed. "Forgive me. I forget how seriously you take small things. Small things are usually where careless people leave fingerprints." His eyes changed. There. Clara felt Dante's attention lock onto her. Luca had gone pale. Not at the insult. At Silas's lapel. A small blue fish pin gleamed there, probably meant as cheerful support for some aquarium charity. Luca's hand found Clara's sleeve. "He had the fish," he whispered. The microphone near the podium caught enough of it. Silas heard too. "Children imagine things," he said quickly. Clara looked at Dante. He did not move. He let her choose the next step. That trust steadied her more than any guard could have. Clara walked to the old route board that had been set up for the ceremony, its restored glass polished clean. Behind it hung the real city map. She took the folded blue fish card from her coat pocket. She had carried it for weeks, waiting for the shape of the lie to reveal itself. Luca was found in this depot because someone gave him a card showing an aquarium night route. She held it up. "Blue line to the east depot." The cameras turned. Silas laughed. "A child souvenir." "No," Clara said. "A fake route." She pinned the car beside the real map. The real blue line turned south 2 stops before this depot. It has never stopped here. Not last month, not last year. Any driver knows that. Any regular rider knows that. But a child who loves buses and fish would believe the picture. Dante's face had become calm in that dangerous way. Clara continued, voice even. "The cardstock is the same as the donor badges printed for today's ceremony. Same gloss, same rounded corner, same tiny crop mark error on the bottom edge." Matteo moved behind Silas. Silas stopped smiling. "This is absurd." Luca pulled the red toy bus from his pocket and set it on the map ledge. "He said Mama liked fish," the boy said. The whole depot seemed to hear the sentence. Dante closed his eyes for half a second. When he opened them, he looked at Silas, not like a man losing control, but like a man deciding control was no longer wasted on politeness. "You used my wife," Dante said softly, "to lead my son away." Silas took one step back. "Dante, be careful. There are cameras." "Yes," Dante said. "There are." He looked to Matteo. "Take him somewhere quiet." Clara's hand tightened on Luca's shoulder. Dante saw it. "Not too quiet," he amended. "There will be paperwork." Matteo's smile was brief and cold. "Of course." Silas blustered, threatened, named people who suddenly found the restored ceiling very interesting. But no one stepped between him and Matteo. The depot doors opened. Silas left with his dignity scattered behind him like old tickets. Luca leaned into Clara. "Was it my fault?" Dante was there before Clara could answer, but this time he looked at her first. Ask, her eyes told him. He crouched to Luca's height, strong but not looming. May I hold you? Luca nodded. Dante gathered him in. It was not your fault, he said. He used something you loved. That is his shame, not yours. Luca's face crumpled against his father's coat. Clara looked away before the ache in her chest became visible. Rosa's cane tapped once on the concrete. Good, the old woman said. Now cut the ribbon before I freeze to death. The depot laughed. Not loudly at first. Then enough. Dante looked at Clara over his son's head. There was gratitude there, and something more dangerous because it did not ask to be hidden. After the ceremony, the depot stayed open late. Drivers drank coffee under the new lights. Rosa accepted compliments like tribute. Luca made Clara walk him through every restored sign. Dante stood near Bay 1, speaking quietly with Matteo and city officials, his eyes never losing track of his son. At 9, snow began to fall. Not hard, just enough to soften the oil-stained concrete and make the depot look like a place from a kinder city. Clara found Dante by the old route board after everyone else had drifted toward the heated office. Silas, she asked. Handled. She looked at him. With paperwork, he said, sounding faintly offended by the limitation. Growth. Do not sound proud. It encourages me. Terrible risk. He looked at the map. You kept the card. Lost and found people keep suspicious things. You also kept the fish sticker from my library. Clara paused. You knew. I know when people take things from my house. And I wanted to see where you would take the truth. That sounds like a test. It was trust. She believed him again. Snow touched his dark hair and vanished. Dante Moretti, under depot lights, was still the most dangerous man Clara had ever met. Nothing about him had become harmless. His world still had shadows, sealed rooms, favors that sounded like threats, and men like Matteo who could make a crowd rearrange itself with one glance. But now she had seen him on a city bus with his knees pressed against the seat in front of him because his son asked. She had heard him sing through iron bars. She had watched him ask before holding his own child. I spent years teaching my son not to fear my enemies, Dante said. You taught him not to fear coming home. Clara's throat tightened. I taught him routes. No, you taught him there are places that wait. The depot doors opened, and Luca came running with the yellow vest over one arm and the red toy bus in his hand. Rosa followed more slowly with her cane, pretending she did not need the driver hovering nearby. Miss Clara, Luca called. Inside voice, Clara said automatically, we are outside. Technical victory. He stopped in front of her and held out the red bus. Clara looked at it. That is yours. He says you need it. The bus said. Luca nodded solemnly. It only stops for family. The words landed with impossible gentleness. Clara looked at Dante. He looked as undone as she felt, though he hid it better. Luca, Dante said softly, that is Clara's choice. I know. Luca pushed the bus into her hand anyway. He can wait. Clara closed her fingers around the toy. It was warm from his pocket. Rosa reached them and hooked the yellow vest over Dante's arm. Put this by the front door when we get home. Dante looked at his mother. Why? Because houses should have signs for people who are expected. Clara inhaled too quickly. Dante's eyes moved to her face. For a moment, nobody spoke. Snow fell through the depot lights. A bus sighed in Bay 3. Somewhere inside, a driver laughed. Dante stepped closer, but not too close. He had learned distance. Clara Bennett, he said, will you come home with us tonight? Her heart kicked once. He did not reach for her, did not dress the question as a command, did not offer money, safety, luxury, or a cage lined in velvet. He only added, just tonight. Let tomorrow ask again. That was what broke her. Not the house, not the name, not the terrifying promise of belonging to a world that still frightened her. The fact that he had left tomorrow free. I had an early shift, she said, because some defenses deserved a respectful burial. I know, and the depot opens at 5. I know, and I am not wearing anything you buy. I know, Rosa snorted. She is coming. Luca looked up with hope so bright it hurt. Clara looked down at the red toy bus in her hand, then at the yellow vest over Dante's arm, then at Dante himself, strong and dangerous, and waiting for an answer as if waiting was something he intended to practice until he got it right. Just tonight, she said. Dante's eyes softened. Just tonight. Luca cheered. Rosa declared she would need better soup. Matteo appeared from nowhere to say the car was ready, then caught Clara's look and corrected himself. Or, he said, with great dignity, the bus schedule can be consulted. Clara smiled. Dante looked at the restored route board. Which line goes home? Luca grabbed his father's hand. Red first, then green. Of course, Dante said. The bus is in charge. Miss Clara is in charge, Luca corrected. Dantes gage met Hirsch. I am learning that. They took the bus. It was ridiculous. Dante Moretti, his mother, his son, his underboss, and the woman from Lost and Found boarding a late city bus, while 3 black SUVs followed at a respectful distance like confused shadows. Clara sat beside Luca. Dante stood in the aisle because the seats were full and because he seemed to understand, finally, that protecting someone did not always mean taking up all the space around them. At the second stop, Luca leaned against Clara's side and fell asleep. Dante looked down at them. Clara held up the red toy bus. He left me the keys. Then I should behave. That would be new. His smile was small, real, and only for her. When they reached the Moretti house, Dante hung the yellow safety vest beside the front door himself. It looked absurd there against polished wood and old brass, bright as sunrise in a house built for shadows. Luca, half asleep in his father's arms, opened one eye. So the buses can see us, he murmured. Dante kissed his son's hair. So we can see who is coming home. Clara stood in the doorway, snow melting on her boots, red toy bus in her pocket, and understood that home was not always a place you owned. Sometimes it was a route someone learned for you. Sometimes it was a song sung through iron bars. Sometimes it was a yellow vest hanging by the door because a child had decided you were expected. Dante turned back to her. He did not say, "Welcome to my house." He said, "You are free to leave in the morning." Clara stepped inside. I know, and for the first time in years, that made staying possible.